Okay, everyone, good morning. Welcome to the disability meeting for May. Let's please go around the room, make our introductions to the record.
Stephanie Zimberg, designated police commissioner. Just on a personal note, I'm very pleased to be here. I really look forward to working with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Samantha Gagan, counsel and Mark B, present by invitation.
Susanna Vickers, designate for controller Scott Stringer.
John Dawson, alternate designee for controller Stringer.
Cynthia Collins, designate for Mayor de Blasio.
Phil Dukes, designate for Commissioner Jock Jiha, Finance.
Marta Ross, Law Department, present by invitation.
Amy Cassidy, Law Department, present by invitation.
Joe Alejandro, I'm the designee for Patrick Lynch, John Puglisi, Mubarak Abdul-Jabbar, and I'm the proxy for Corey Grable.
Brad Shaw, PBA, present by invitation.
Mark Garrido, PBA, present by invitation.
Chris McGrath, PBA, present by invitation.
Gary DeRosa, designee for Ed Mullins, SBA.
Nick Safuni, present by invitation as counsel, SBA, LBA, CEA.
Lou Turco, LBA.
Roy Richter, CEA.
Kenny Sparks, DEA, designee for Mike Palladino.
Karen Paxis, DEA by invitation.
Marty Williams, DEA by invitation.
Sherry Chansey, actuary, present by invitation.
Eli Kleiman, Chief Surgeon, by invitation.
Bob Sansky, State Pension Fund by invitation.
Kevin Holleran, Pension Fund by invitation.
Diane Carr.
Therese Gallagher, medical division, present by invitation.
Keith Snow, Office of the Actuary, present by invitation.
Nicole Jambrisi, Police Pension Fund, present by invitation.
Marlene Marco Boyd, Office of the Actuary, present by invitation.
Gregory Potting, New York City Police Pension Fund.
Mike Jacobowitz, Police Pension Fund, present by invitation.
Vincent Diaz, Police Pension Fund, present by invitation. Ed Children, Police Pension Fund, by invitation.
And Solano Pension Fund, present by invitation.
John Flynn, Police Pension Fund, present by invitation.
Lisa Garcia, Police Pension Fund, present by invitation.
Aisha Wenham, Police Pension Fund, present by invitation.
Okay, Joe.
Okay, page 1 to confirm the next meeting date, Wednesday, June 14, 2017. Pages 2 through 10.
2 through 36, Joe, nothing of a controversial nature, will so move.
Thank you, Ken. So moved. Okay, resolution regarding the final fiscal year 2017 employee contribution. No. That's you want to bring table from last month? Oh, this was orange. Oh, yes. So I believe this was our table last month, and I believe the controller asked for some matter to be reviewed by the law department on this one. That was when there was John Dorsa asked that information. There was a request.
Is that something that you guys got from the last meeting?
Sorry, can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I was asking the law department if that was something that they, a request that they received.
Was that an attorney-client?
John?
Can we?
Yeah, I'm sorry, John's here, so I don't know if John remembers offhand.
I'm sorry, John, what did we
That was the
decide?
meeting.
Did we ask for something?
Yes, and I believe that was provided, I believe that we saw a communication provided by the law department. So I think we'd need to discuss that in attorney-client.
Correct.
Well, before we get to that, I want to be clear. That was not a request of the PBA to review the matter of whether this necessitated a vote by the board at the time. So I just want to be clear on that. But it brings up another issue. So there was a series of emails, which I won't get into the content of those emails, and it brings up, and I believe the law department on citing on caution decided to have the matter reviewed by. No, I didn't want to get into the content of that, but I believe the law department reviewed it extensively and decided that the matter should, the memo in regards to whether there was a vote necessitated or not, had to be approved by the board to be released unless the actuary requested that memo herself. and it just brings up an issue regarding conflict. And I believe the law department understands that there was a conflict and tried to make sure that they were acting properly within the constraints of that inherent conflict. So I think that that's something that we need to explore down the road, but I don't want to get into the exact contents of any memo. So I don't know if that, before we go into attorney-client, I just wanted to explore, that was a side issue that I want to make sure that we're clear on, that there was an issue of potential conflict, and the law department, I believe, acted properly in how they reviewed it, make sure that we all knew about it before the memos, the issue about the memos were discussed in attorney-client. So I want to thank you for that.
Yeah, Joe, seeing as how the communication was between the law department as our attorney and with the board, I don't feel that it's appropriate to discuss that in a public in the public portion.
And they said with regards to the content of it, as far as the actual going back and forth regarding procedure with the board, I thought that was something that we could discuss as a board in public, but we don't discuss the content of the memo, which is the actual information regarding stemming from their research to their clients.
Respectfully, I defer to the law department on what topics should be covered, which portions of that communication are covered under attorney-client and which are fitting for the public session of the meeting. I'm not an attorney, so I don't want to make any statements that are in the wrong portion of the meeting and off topic. So, I'll defer to the law department on how to proceed appropriately.
John, I appreciate that, and that's why I was clear that I'm not discussing the contents of the memo and the actual recommendation by the law department. I'm talking about procedurally how information is given to the board, and also those who are invited to present to the board. And I think procedurally, the law department did the right thing. I'm not criticizing the law department. I'm lauding them. They did the right thing. They discussed that issue, and I think they cited with caution to ensure that procedurally we all understood how memos requested by one trustee could go and be given to someone, even though they represent them. And I think that was the right thing to do. That's all.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that makes sense,
And now we'll go into attorney-client to discuss the contents of the memo.
Well, just before we do that, right, there's a potential for another issue to go to attorney-client. Do you want to second call that and address them both?
Yeah, why don't we second call that, and we can discuss that. Oh, wait a minute. Which issue are we talking about? I'm sorry. Which issue potentially would be?
The child care leave buyback. Are we going into?
No, we don't need to go into attorney-client for that. At least I don't.
Okay.
I'm not bringing up an issue to go into attorney-client for that.
All right. You want to second call it anyway, and let's just get through the calendar and get back, or you want to?
Doesn't matter. I don't think we're going to be long on regarding the law department's memo. I don't think we're going to be that long.
All right. Would you prefer to go into it now, attorney?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So for those for attorney-client, those who are non-attorneys, will be asked to leave the room.
Joe.
Okay, with regards to the resolution on the final fiscal year 2017 employer contribution and a preliminary fiscal year 2018 appropriation letter from the actuary, the PBA moves to table those two items until some further response from the law department clarifying matters that were brought up beginning with last month's table. I will follow up by email with the law department to get further clarification.
I'm sorry, Joe, and then everybody's gonna get a copy of the law department's final?
I believe so, yes. All the trustees will get the response.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say, since it was the controller's office who
Right.
originally asked for the guidance from the law department, I see that there's additional guidance that is necessary, and we're fine with tabling while that gets, while we have the opportunity to get that additional guidance.
The next matter, judicial decision regarding the eligibility of Tier 3 members to child care leave buyback. So, we've received, I'm sorry. Okay. Oh, yes. So, I believe that there was a resolution of the matter. Not, I believe there was a judicial decision regarding this matter. We were waiting some further information, and it's my understanding that with regards to this, the law department has filed a motion to appeal the matter. What I would ask is also, as I've always asked in the past, I believe that it should have been brought to the attention of the board that that was going to be the intention of the law department to appeal it. And I think it necessitates an approval of the Board of Trustees. So I would ask that the Board of Trustees, a roll call vote, whether to continue an appeal or to begin an appeal in this matter.
Okay, is that a motion?
I'm making a motion that we vote on whether to appeal this matter in the courts.
Second that. Okay,
Second?
second. So,
What would the impact of the vote be either way?
Well, I believe as an attorney, you can't go into court without a client. And if you're going to go in, this is a matter that affects the beneficiaries of this fund. And speaking as a trustee on this fund, I don't think you should be going into court on this matter when a judge has declared that the actual issue is settled in law in the opinion of the court. And so I think we should, the law department going forward on an appeal without the authority of the board, I don't know how you can go in and practice in front of a court without a client.
I'm unaware of that. I don't necessarily know that that's accurate. I'd have to look into that, if that's an issue.
I'd also like to have perhaps the law department brief on the basis that they've come to a determination to appeal the case and on what basis they're appealing the case before we, I mean, it seems like we don't have all the facts to vote on whether or not to approve the appeal, even if that's within our authority.
Well, I think at the end of the day, the court has spoken. There's a decision by a court.
But it's not a final judicial decision.
Okay, but I think at the end, you were representing the board with regards to the beneficiaries of this fund. So I think at the end, if you're going to appeal it, you need to have the authority of the board.
Is there any written information regarding?
Other than the decision?
No, I mean other than the yeah, I guess other than the decision, has anybody produced anything?
Well, yesterday at 2:30, we got notice that the law department's intending to appeal without discussion of the board. So I think this necessitates I mean, you can't practice law without a client. The first thing the judge is going to ask you, who's your client? So who's your client? Is it the board?
I think that's an issue that we have to discuss then. I'm not prepared to vote on it today. I don't have enough facts.
Yeah, we
If
just
you
need
want to
more
table,
information.
you can table, right? I mean, you know, you have the right to table. I'm not going to interfere with that right.
Joe, don't they have to pull the appeal then until they table it?
I don't know. I feel it necessitates a vote of the board. So if, you know, if you're going to, what are you going to do with regards to appeal?
Maybe we need to go into attorney-client. We're starting to talk about legal strategy. I don't know where Nicole is.
I move to table it.
I think absent anything that has actually been filed with the court or served upon PBA's counsel by the law department, I wouldn't talk about anything outside of that in public. I'm comfortable with you discussing what's been filed in court because obviously those are public documents, but you're going to go into strategy and why the appeal was sought. That would need to be an attorney-client.
Again, those are matters that the PBA did not broach right now at the table. The PBA is just requesting that there's a vote of the board whether to continue an appeal in this matter because it was never asked in the beginning whether an appeal was necessary. And so I think at the end, the board should opine by a vote whether it wants to continue an appeal or not. That's all. I'm not talking about strategy. I'm not talking about the contents. I just talking about two things. There was a court decision, and law department decided to appeal. That's all.
Can I ask a question of the law department? Who was the original client in the case?
That's a good question. I'm sure a court would ask.
Do you know?
Well, historically, a board vote has never been rendered in terms of whether or not to appeal a decision. It's a law department decision.
Which is always a position that I think is extremely controversial because I think in the end, law department is taking it upon themselves to pursue matters without authority of the boards that they're providing information for and representing in court.
Well, again, I don't know if this board or whoever is the specific client, but sometimes within delegated authority to do certain things, there are parameters that they can use their judgment on. So I think I would need more information too. So why don't we table it?
Yeah, move to table.
Second.
Can I request just a quick caucus with the other unions just to talk about this matter? Very brief caucus.
The City of New York, Police Pension Fund, and the Police Pension Fund Board of Trustees.
Please cut it, yeah.
Okay, we're good.
Okay, so, so I believe there were, it was a motion, provided by the city side to table this matter, and so, we'll just table it till next month. To be reviewed.
Okay.
Okay. All right, I'm sorry. So, next, the discussion on report of budget meeting.
Okay, so we had a meeting on May 2nd. The meeting was held in executive session, and so that information will be made public at a later date.
We want our budget. Okay, later date. Okay, next, resolution regarding fiscal year 2015 scheme for police to the police officer variable supplement fund and a police superior officer's variable supplement fund.
Your side.
So this is your resolution, so.
This is the final fiscal year 2015 calculation for the police officers PSF fund. The final amount is $300,636,776. For the superior officers, the final amount is $263,801,532.
So, just quickly, I just want to bring up a matter, and just the actuary's office circulated this memo on May 4th, 2017.
We sent it out, yes, May 4th.
With other matters, right? And it's my understanding that there's an unwritten practice to send this information at least 5 days in advance, and I believe the actuary did so, and we appreciate that, and thank you. But going forward, as a courtesy, we just, with matters that are very lengthy and a lot of information in it, if you have the information prior to the 5 days, we would have just appreciated if you could send it out prior to that so that we have a little bit more time to review, considering it's complicated material.
Okay, we'll try our best. Information is precedent on other information, other agencies providing us information, but we will try our best to get it out as soon as it's available.
Okay, appreciate it. And so PBA at this time would just ask for a roll call vote.
Okay, PBA?
PBA at this time votes no.
DEA?
Yes.
SBA?
Yes.
LBA?
Yes.
CEA?
Yes.
Finance?
Yes.
Controller?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
And Police Commissioner.
Yes.
Okay, so the vote carries.
Okay. Okay, next is the resolution regarding fiscal year 2015 skim and the ABO gate test for the police officer variable supplement fund.
Okay, so we need a motion to go into,
So I make a motion to go into executive session or public session? Public session of the police officer's variable supplement fund.
okay, and roll call PBA?
Joe Alejandro designee for Patrick Lynch, John Puglisi, Mubarak Abdul-Jabbar, and I have the proxy for Corey Grable.
Okay, representing Finance,
Phil Dukes for Commissioner Jock Jiha.
Mayor's Office,
Cynthia Collins representing Mayor Bill de Blasio.
and the Controller.
Susanna Vickers representing Scott Stringer.
Okay?
Again, the police officers VSF final amount for fiscal year 2015 is $300,636,776.
Okay, thank you. So PBA asks for a roll call vote. This
Okay, PBA?
PBA votes no.
Finance?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Controller?
Yes.
Okay, so the vote carries.
Okay, motion to leave public session of the police officer variable supplement fund and go into public session of the police pension fund.
Joe, you can't make that motion.
To leave police officer variable supplement?
You can, but then we're just gonna go right into the PSO.
Are you gonna go directly into
Yeah.
PSA? Okay, I thought we were going into police pension fund. Okay, so I make a motion to leave the public session of the police officer's variable supplement fund.
Okay, second?
Second.
Second.
Okay. And now we need a motion to go into the police superiors.
Motion to put it into the police superiors.
I second that motion.
Okay, roll call, DEA,
Yes.
SBA, no, not the vote, but just Who's representing?
I'm sorry, Ken Sparks. Sparks taking care.
I was wondering where that was going.
And he says this, I'm ready. Want the money, boy.
SBA,
Gary DeRosa does me for Ed Mullins.
LBA,
Lou Turco.
CEA,
Roy Richter for CEA.
Commissioner of Finance,
Phil Dukes for Commissioner Jacques Jiha.
Mayor,
Cynthia Collins for Mayor Bill de Blasio.
and the Controller.
Susanna Vickers.
Okay.
So the final amount for the Superior Officers VSF for fiscal year 2015 is $263,801,532.
I move to accept that money and deposit it into the police officer superior.
There you go.
Thank you for that resolution.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now we need a motion to go out of that and into public.
Motion to go out of that.
Out of that, it's closed.
Second.
Very good. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is a discussion regarding the responsible contractor policy.
So I'll be brief. Bob is handing out a draft responsible contractor policy for everyone's review. A responsible contractor policy is a policy that some of the other boards have had applying to investments in real estate and infrastructure. Trying to lay out sort of the rules of the road and the guidelines and desires from the funds to highlight fairness in wages, in organizing, in contracting, and things like that. So I'll just quickly tell you some of the highlights of the policy, and then hopefully we can discuss it after everybody's had a chance to review it. So basically, unlike a lot of other policies of pension funds around the country, we've tried to design this so it applies not only to the majority investments, but to commingled funds. So the funds that we invest in with other pension plans and other general partners, most of this policy would apply to that, to those types of investments. We've divided the policy into two parts. Sections 1 through 7 apply to all funds. And then there are more specific guidelines in section 8 that apply just to the majority investments that we have. So we don't have too many of those. We don't have them in infrastructure. We've historically had a few in real estate when we have big sort of New York-based partnerships. And I think that, that some other systems and boards, have sort of expressed a desire to oversee those New York-based projects a little bit more. So we lay out, sort of really clear enforcement, monitoring, reporting, administration guidelines, and they're contained in this policy. The other recommended practices that apply to all funds include things like the use of MWBEs, the idea of neutrality in case there's a organizing effort. This policy would require that that our managers remain neutral when there's a question around unionization. Things like safety training and competitive bidding in an open selection process. So again, we think this is helpful to our managers. Who have seen a draft, and it would be helpful for them to really understand what's important to the boards and sort of what our guidelines are going forward. Some of these things, like the requirement having to do with public sector jobs and not investing in projects that have the potential to eliminate public sector jobs. That's already in some of our other contracting documents, but we thought it was important to kind of have it up front so everybody sees this going into it. So I look forward to discussing further. If you have any questions, please ask us.
Thank you. So we're going to table this for review. Okay, so that matter is tabled, so that ends the public agenda. So I make a motion that we go into executive session for purposes of discussing disability.
Okay, thank you.